Bon dia, good morning. Your Excellencies, Brussels, Minister of Finance, Budget, Civil Service and Multilingualism, Ambassador of Portugal, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and language enthusiasts. I think we all are here today. Can you hear me well? It's better. Good. A warm welcome to today's seminar that aims to mark the World Portuguese Language Day that is celebrated every year since 2019 on the 5th of May. So we're a little bit late, but better late than never. To celebrate multilingualism as a core value of the United Nations and of the European Union in a context of growing challenges, but also opportunities, namely related to the digital transformation and AI in particular. It is truly an honor to gather here today to dive into the richness of one of the world's most vibrant and widely spoken languages, Portuguese. Portuguese, with its roots steeped in history and its branches reaching far and wide across the globe, stands as a testament to the enduring legacy of linguistic diversity and cultural diversity. From Lisbon to Brazil, from Angola to Cape Verde, Portuguese resonates as a bridge connecting cultures, peoples, and traditions. But who is better placed than António Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, to speak about Portuguese that, as we all know, is his mother tongue? I therefore invite you to watch a short video message on the occasion of this World Day by the Secretary General.
A língua portuguesa é um tesouro inestimável que transcende fronteiras e oceanos. Falada por centenas de milhões de pessoas, é o veículo de uma riqueza cultural extraordinária, unindo comunidades e nações em diferentes partes do mundo. Uma mesma língua, uma vasta pluralidade de vozes. E essa diversidade é tão mais rica quanto mais intensa é a colaboração entre os países de língua portuguesa em áreas como a educação, a cultura, a ciência e a investigação. Esta língua é uma herança comum e é uma preciosa semente de futuro. E o seu futuro deve também afirmar-se no espaço público virtual, com a expansão dos conteúdos culturais e científicos em português, porque a sociedade do conhecimento só será verdadeiramente global, aberta e inclusiva se for uma sociedade multilingüe. Neste Dia Mundial da Língua Portuguesa, saúdo o trabalho da comunidade dos países de língua portuguesa na promoção desse património linguístico e cultural e no fortalecimento dos laços entre os povos que a integram. As Nações Unidas permanecem empenhadas na cooperação com a CPLP e acreditam firmemente que o multilinguismo e a diversidade cultural contribuem para a construção de um mundo mais pacífico, inclusivo e unido. E neste ano em que a Cimeira do Futuro nos convidará a pensar nos passos a tomar para esse mundo mais pacífico, inclusivo e unido, urge lembrar, como escreveu Agostinho Neto, que a esperança somos nós. Muito obrigado.
As you've seen in the program, the role of Portuguese language in Belgium, in Europe and in the world is the topic of today's second panel. Portuguese is the sixth most spoken language in the world, with over 2,060 million speakers spread across Portugal, Brazil, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, East Timor, Equatorial Guinea, Cape Verde, and Sao Tome and Principe. It is also widely spoken in immigrant communities around the world, particularly in Europe, in the United States, and in Canada. With our special guest, we will discuss how Portuguese can continue to be a tool of communication across the globe, but also, as the UN Secretary General mentioned in his message, how the language can assert itself in the virtual public space with expansion of cultural and scientific content in Portuguese. Before that, today's first panel of discussion will focus on multilingualism in Europe and its importance in the future. This topic not only resonates deeply with the cultural fabric of Europe, but also holds profound implications for the trajectory of our shared future. With the help of our distinguished guests, we'll reflect on how, in a rapidly globalizing world where interconnectedness knows no bound, multilingualism emerges not merely as a practical skill, but as a fundamental asset, essential for navigating the complexity of our modern-day societies. Nowhere is this more evident than in Europe, a continued renown for its linguistic and cultural diversity. Moreover, the importance of multilingualism extends far beyond the realm of communication. Studies have shown that multilingual individuals possess cognitive advantages, including enhanced problem-solving skills, greater cultural sensitivity, and increased adaptability. These cognitive benefits position multilinguals as invaluable assets in driving innovation, fostering collaboration, and promoting global citizenship, and from a UNESCO perspective, also very much creativity. However, as we contemplate the role of multilingualism in shaping Europe's future, we must also acknowledge the challenges that lie ahead. From the preservation of minority languages to the promotion of equitable language policies, Europe grapples with a myriad of complexity that necessitate careful consideration and concerted action. Allow me to mention that we at UNESCO daily work to promote multilingual education as a means to ensuring inclusive access to quality education for all individuals, regardless of their linguistic background. Recognizing the transformative power of education in breaking the cycle of poverty and fostering sustainable development, UNESCO advocates for the implementation of language-inclusive education policies that value and respect the linguistic diversity of learners. Dear friends, with no further ado, let's start today's journey on multilingualism, a journey that His Excellency, the Ambassador of Portugal, will wrap up, providing a summary with the main outputs of our events later today. So it is my pleasure to invite today's keynote speaker, the Brussels Minister of Finance, Budget, Civil Service and Multilingualism, a quite impressive portfolio, I must say, Mr. Sven Gatz, to take the floor. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope for all of you that my keynote speech will be as impressive as my titles. But bom dia, Mr. Ambassador in particular, ladies and gentlemen, dear Portuguese friends, dear friends of multilingualism. I am particularly honored to be present today at the seminar Embracing Multilingualism, a spotlight on the Portuguese language, and to talk to you briefly about one of my responsibilities as minister in the Brussels government, and that is, of course, the promotion of multilingualism in our capital. Multilingualism is part of the DNA of the Brussels region, of the Brussels citizen. A majority of Brussels residents are in favor of some form of multilingual education, which is not the case today, because you know, if you go to a Brussels school, you do it in Dutch or in French, or maybe in a very minority position, you can go to a European school, and Brussels want this to change. A majority of Brussels residents also agree that multilingualism is essential for finding a job. I will go into this a bit later. And a majority of our Brusselsers thinks also that language skills are an essential part of a Brussels native's identity. And this is new because for a long time there was a battle of the languages here in Brussels between French and Dutch, and now with the more international position of Brussels the last 2 or 3 decades, the younger generation embraces multilingualism much more than my generation did, which is a very good thing. Our Brussels capital region has a special position. In fact, it is a relatively small area, but there are nevertheless more than 1.2 million inhabitants, And in between this large group of people, you can count 180 nationalities and more than 100 different languages spoken. And this makes Brussels one of the most cosmopolitan regions in the world. I think we are second behind Dubai. Eh? And that makes us a laboratory and a pioneer in the field of multilingualism. Our ambition is that all young people in Brussels have a minimum command of Dutch, French, and English by the age of 18. And we're not yet there. Eh? It's much better than 20 years ago, but we must improve the situation. And in order to develop this multilingualism, it is important that all partners involved in child education and development know how best to stimulate this multilingual development. This is an important thing because people have different perspectives on multilingualism, which is perfectly normal, but there are some universal laws in education that work better for multilingualism than others, and we should talk about that, we should exchange them, and we should enhance them. Language diversity and multilingualism are seen as a threat to national unity from time to time. A look at the past shows us that this idea also determined the language policy and situation in Brussels and Belgium. But I told you, today, a general respect for home languages and languages in general has grown. In a cosmopolitan environment such as Brussels, knowing several languages allows one to function within several social networks, especially French, English, Dutch, and we apply the definition with an inclusive and functional view on multilingualism. A person is multilingual, if he or she masters several languages and can at least hold conversations in these languages. This is also an interesting debate. How far do you want to go? Do we want to go in mastering the languages? This is very interesting, and I think it's very difficult to find a solution. Is it better to speak one language very well and then some other languages partly? Or do you speak several languages, but there is maybe not one language you master very well? Interesting debate, passionate debate also. Multilingualism, I announced to you, and I would talk about this, is in Brussels important to find a job. Of course, everywhere, but now, just for the last 20 years, we are realizing that it is getting more and more important for a job. And according to Actiris, which is the Brussels Regional Service for Labour Agency, 53 of the job offers the agency obtains make explicit language demands. And in 80% of these vacancies, knowledge of both national language, French, Dutch, is required. And in around 40% of cases, the knowledge of English is required, which was, for instance, not the case 10, 20 years ago. Usually, of course, in combination with French and Dutch. And the demand for other languages is, on the other hand, relatively limited. Even so, if you are capable to speak other languages, this will give you a positive element. From the same figures from Actiris, it can be seen that 78% of job seekers express no knowledge of the second national language, while 7% claim a good command of the second language. And above all, some 16% of job seekers speak neither French or Dutch. So there is not a causal relationship, but there is a correlation relationship between the knowledge of languages and finding a job. Only 37% of job seekers claim an average command of English and 18%, a good command. Finally, some 2/3 of this group, leaving aside French and Dutch, speak another language. The use of English is increasing in the public space, in the first place in the workplace, whereas in 2001, some 10% of workers in Brussels used English in their work situation. That number has recently grown to around half. And this is not a surprise to you, of course. And English is also scaling new heights in higher education in Brussels. A knowledge of English is considered more and more to be self-evident in both public and private spheres, partly as a result of the Europeanization and the internationalization of Brussels, with the resulting growth in the number of expats. In the specific case of Brussels, it is important to take account of the presence of the international community. Of course, we are here in an international community. And the use of English as a maximin language in many contexts plays an important role. This is why it is so important that English has a place in our policy vision of the multilingualism of Brussels. Of course, we should not make the error of saying at some point that English is equal multilingualism, which is not. English is a very important language to communicate in, but it is important that other languages, whether it be Portuguese or from our point of view, French and Dutch, remain also very vibrant. That is the real sense of multilingualism. In 2019, now almost 5 years ago, you know we have elections ahead, I launched my blueprint for a multilingual Brussels in which I suggested a few ways to achieve more multilingualism in Brussels. And for the first time, a government writes an important clause on multilingualism in its policy agreement, and for the first time, a minister is put in charge of the promotion of multilingualism in Brussels. It remains a coordinating task, which, as some of you are active in policy, that you have much potential, but not always the power to change things directly. But I think for the last 5 years, we created several initiatives which put the basis in place to build on for the next government. I name you some. We established a council for multilingualism, so that you have a sort of more neutral and objective institution that advises the minister and gives impulses for new policy elements. We organized the Brussels Multilingualism Day the last Saturday of September, now for the last 5 years. And this is really in relationship with the Multilingualism Day of the European Parliament at the same moment. We also launched a Be Talkie platform. Be Talkie is some kind of not really English to say to the Brussels populations, be talkie, dare to speak your languages. Have no fear, in particular to some of our French Brussels residents. They are sometimes waiting to speak the language perfect and then to speak it. But this is, of course, a contradiction in terminus. You have to make mistakes, you have to speak, you have to do a lot of things to get to the next level. And then you find on this platform all of the knowledge we built for the last 5 years and all of the particular initiatives we took. And then we launched also a call for some projects in the education sector, in the cultural sector, and in the economic sector. Now, within the education sector, of course, this is our first logical partner that we have. I am convinced that schools in Brussels can do more about multilingual education within the current regulation. Brussels schools are still too little aware that more multilingualism is possible at school within the current legislation. I also plead for an extensive exchange of teachers. We have to put this exchange into effect and crank up our efforts. Not only the exchange of teachers, but also the exchange of pupils is necessary. For example, by organizing language baths and mutual exchange through language camps. Another step for me is making changes at the institutional level, the state reform. There are 2 possible courses of action here. Either we create in Brussels a particular Brussels education network that is fully bilingual and therefore multilingual, so apart from the Dutch and the French, a new system, or we give the schools the freedom to organize more multilingual education than they can do now. And this would add certainly multilingual schools to the existing Dutch and French-speaking ones. Let's have a debate on this. I would also like to encourage the business community to invest in multilingualism. There was a call for projects where companies that promote multilingualism in the workplace could sign up for and receive support from our government via a subsidy. But the government itself can also make more of an effort in the area of multilingualism by way of job placement as well as in education and training. And this is how we want to come from a language point to a language point, a cité des langues, een talenpunt, in which all our actors cooperate, join forces in the back office and in the front office, create a Brussels gateway to learning more languages. This way, the inhabitants of Brussels could measure and improve their language skills. We already have expanded the Brulingua platform to this purpose. This is a website where you can learn more than 20 languages, and we launched it 2 years ago. We should also dare to think about the future of our language legislation. It may still be needed, but is it still adapted to our current linguistic diversity? So in a new institutional round where we have to advocate more and better multilingual education in the Brussels region, we will have to take a close look at the language legislation. It is not by coincidence that when I presented my book, my blueprint, 2 years ago, I was supported by the Prime Minister of this country, Mr. De Croo, because the language legislation is something that is applied in the different regions of Belgium, but it is a federal legislation. And I think as it dates from 1966, we should revise it and modernize it. We should advocate the bilingualism of the civil servants over the bilingualism of the service, because sometimes in some of our administrations you can be helped by someone who is unilingual, but there are people of the different languages present. Of course, it is better to have the civil servant on an individual basis bilingual. And there are some public services who make very, very good progress in that, who see it also as very normal service level towards not only taxpayers, but clients and Brussels civilians as they are. And this is the right way to go. In this context, I would also venture to ask whether the digital and the technological revolution through translation apps and all kinds of applications of artificial intelligence is not making us reluctant to learn foreign language. This is an interesting debate. I have no answer to that. You cannot draw back the technological evolution, so it's a good thing that we have these things. But on the other hand, we should see them also as a partner to learn the languages and not only use electronic devices. That is my personal point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you some elements, some different things, different, well, how should I put it, different work fields that we could use to make the multilingualism stronger, better, and root it more deeper than it is actually today. And I'm also very curious about how your perspective is on multilingualism and how you see things. We can certainly learn from each other. I think what unites us here is that we believe in the power of multilingualism because it enriches you and allows you to best understand what your interlocutor means. And you certainly heard this quote of Mr. Nelson Mandela before, but it's one of the most beautiful quotes that I know, so I will give it to you once again. If you talk to a person in a language he understands, it goes to his head. If you talk to him or her in his or her language, it goes to his heart. Thank you, and a very fruitful symposium.
Bon dia. Bonjour, good morning to all. I think you can hear me well. Yes? Great. My name is Caroline Petit. I'm the Deputy Director for the United Nations Regional Information Center for Western Europe, so I'm delighted to be here. UNRIC communicates about the work of the United Nations in 22 countries in Europe, and we work in 13 languages, of course in Portuguese as well. Our office is here on the 7th floor, and we are delighted to welcome you and thank you to our partners for this collaboration. So in the first panel discussion this morning, I will ask our expert panelists to question why multilingualism is an asset today and for the future in Europe. So I have the pleasure to welcome on this panel Ana Menesola. Bon dia. I have a logopédiste and chargée de cours at ULB à ma gauche, Pauline van der Straten-Wallet. Bienvenue. And on my right, I have Oriol Freccia Matalonga. Did I pronounce it well?
Perfect.
Perfect. Senior Liaison Officer at UNESCO. Benvenida, Oriol.
Muchas gracias.
So multilingualism, as the minister said, is a key aspect of the Belgian society and one of our strengths. And as a Belgian French-speaking person addressing you in English as we sit in the heart of Europe, I'm not surprised that some of our panelists here speaks up to 6 languages. So since I'm still working on my Catalan, please apologize. We are going to conduct this in English. So our expert will give us the personal and expert perspective on multilingual matters. And I suggest I'll have 2 rounds of questions for each of you. And then we'll have the floor for questions. I'll open the floor for questions. So Anna, I'll start with you. Okay. You are an expert of multilingualism at the European Commission. You are Spanish and Catalan based in Brussels. You are one of the ones speaking 6 languages and raising your kids in 5 languages. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Yeah.
Amazing. No competition yet.
No.
So, Anna, we know languages are indispensable for mobility, for cooperation, for mutual understanding. Could you tell us a little bit more about the languages competencies at the European Commission in the education sector? This
Yes.
is one of your core aspects. And also, if I may, how does Europe promote the multilingual and the language learning? Please.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. Is this on?
Yes.
Because I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
find the button, so I'm reassured now. So indeed, I mean, multilingualism is a founding principle of the European Union. We are a very multilingual institution. The European Union is a multilingual institution. You said it's indispensable for mobility, for mutual understanding, for working in another member state, of course. So we at the education department are promoting that. Now, multilingualism is not a competence of the union. It's actually a member state competence, so we cannot dictate whatever is going to happen in member states. But what we can is help each other, promote good practices. And the member states collectively gave themselves a target, which is part of the Council recommendation of 2019 on a comprehensive approach to the teaching and learning of languages. And so what they aspire to is that youth leave secondary school speaking very well the language of schooling, which is not necessarily what they speak at home, plus 2 other languages. So like Minister Gatz was also aiming for trilingualism in Brussels. In fact, this is the aim of the whole union, that youth in particular, because for our generation this has already not happened, but are trilingual. So how we do that from the union without having the teaching competencies of the schools? Well, we have Erasmus Plus program that everybody must have heard of. This is a wonderful tool because not only through mobility we encourage speaking other languages, motivating people to move and speak them, but also we can finance a lot of cooperation projects through Erasmus Plus, that allow schools and other institutions to just cooperate on language learning. Next to that, we have some tools for teachers, in particular the European School Education Platform, which has a wealth of material that teachers from Europe, sometimes they don't know, but is at their disposal for free in, again, all the official languages of the Union. And we have also the eTwinning tool, which allows them to communicate with each other, make up projects, that are probably going to also motivate their classrooms to practice other languages. We have also, since a few years, the online language support. So for those who participate in Erasmus+, Go on Mobility, there is this online classes, if you want, that they can access to, which will help them to improve a little bit the target language of the country where they are moving in their mobilities. And then we do a lot of other cooperation activities, like best practice sessions between member states, or we organize the European Day of Languages every 26th of September. There's a European event, but also in every member state we are financing lots of events to promote language learning. So, voila.
That's plenty. Thank you. And I think some call of actions for the audience. They are tools. They are often free of charge, and it's good to actually find out. The Minister Gatz also mentioned Bitalki and some tools I didn't know about. So those initiatives are there to be grasped and embraced and to help promote multilingualism. Thank you, Anna. I'll come back to you in a minute, but I'd like to hear from Pauline. So, Pauline, you are a logopedist,
yes,
a speech language therapist, and a chargée de cours at ULB, l'Université Libre de Bruxelles. You are from Belgium, like me, a country where we have 3 national languages and so many languages around us. So vous êtes baigné dans cette ambiance. I'd like you to share with us your expertise in how children can acquire so many languages simultaneously. And also, what are the factors who influence this linguistic development? Maybe we can take some tips, because at our age, we'd like also to learn more languages.
Yeah, my expertise is more about children, but we can learn new languages at any age, so that's the good news. And children acquire multiple languages because they are exposed to multiple languages. Okay, so most parents of multilingual children want their children to acquire the family language or home language, but also to acquire the societal or school language. This is called active multilingualism. However, exposure is not sufficient to acquire the languages. Most children achieve a high level in the school or societal language, but proficiency in the family language is not guaranteed, especially for minority languages. There is a risk of language loss for minority languages. So to achieve active multilingualism, children need to communicate with real people in each language. No passive exposure through television or screen time, but communication with real people. And they need to be exposed to a rich linguistic input in each language. And rich means a high quantity, so many interactions when we are together, and at least 40% of the time exposed to each language. If you have less than 30% of your time exposure to, for example, Portuguese, there is a risk of language loss. But rich means also a high quality. The communication partners must be competent in the language they use. Often, one language is, children are exposed to one language before the other, the second one, or to one language more than the other, because of this quantity of exposure. And the skills in one language is a strength, it has a positive influence on the acquisition of the second language. So family languages are really a strength for children and should always be supported to achieve active multilingualism. And the exposure to each language can be modulated, influenced through parental decisions that are called family language policies. It is a big word to say who speaks which language or languages with the children when and where. There were 2 beautiful Erasmus Plus projects about family language policies recently. The first one is called Planting Languages. And they are beautiful tools to support parents in their explicit planning of family language policies. And the second one is the PEACH project. The website is called bilingualfamily.eu. And explicit planning should be made as often as necessary to give the child a balanced and a rich exposure to each language. Another factor that impacts of multilingual development is the socio-linguistic context, so societal attitudes towards multilingualism and towards minority languages. If people think that it's better to speak the majority language and that it's better to speak like a native or like a monolingual speaker, and this can have a negative impact on the well-being of multilingual children and their families. So, as a society, we can contribute to the development of multilingual children by making minority languages visible, and today is a beautiful example of making languages visible. We can value these languages and promote positive attitudes towards linguistic diversity and multilingualism. So exposure, explicit planning through family language policies, and positive social-linguistic context are some key factors.
Thank you. Well, it seems like Minister Gatz said Brussels is a laboratorium, a lab for this type of great initiative. Thank you, Pauline. I'm turning to Oriol. Oriol, you are a Spanish-Catalan representative. You speak and write fluently in 6 languages. Yeah. And I understand you are now going to learn Dutch and German.
I'm starting Dutch because I need to understand the complex situation in this country. You know that how difficult it is to learn after 30 years. That I know that I am big Oriol, ik ben Oriol, but so I think that it's time that most of us, I think that we need to go through the part of the English, French, and whatever on Dutch. I think that it should be compulsory here.
It's good to start by the basics.
Yeah.
So Oriol, you are the Senior Liaison Officer for UNESCO, and you have been an expert in the international cultural cooperation area with 20 years of managing development cooperation program. 30? I was trying to be gentle.
I'm a little bit sometimes.
And you work in the international area of the European Union and the United Nations. So I thought I would ask you how UNESCO promotes multilingualism as a core value for education and culture.
Of course.
And then maybe, as Anna told us about the European Language Days, you can mention what is the UN system doing to promote it.
Yes. Several links that we are working already, but sometimes, as I said, the silos, they give the opportunity to be broken. So, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you to UNRIC. Obrigado por a invitação da Embaixada Portuguesa. É uma oportunidade grande oportunidade de poder estar aqui, falar com vocês. O meu português mais portunhol, mas gosto muito de falar português, tenho muito bons amigos de Portugal e adoro Portugal, adoro Lisboa, adoro Porto, adoro Alentejo, adoro Madeira. Gosto muito da cultura portuguesa e acho que este encontro hoje aqui devia ser... Nós devíamos falar, cada a nossa língua madre. Acho que é o catalão, mas não me importa. Não gosto muito de falar português e sei que a metade da gente aqui fala português.
Oriol, it's fantastic because
I know.
I understood. I understood everything, and I love Portugal
but we need
too.
to do the effort. We need to do the effort to speak several languages at the same time. Even we will not go through Esperanto. I think this is old-fashioned. I love it, and I visit the museum recently in Vienna last week, specifically, and I love that. It's not maybe with the AI. We will talk later on.
Yep.
will talk with AI, that it will be something that we will have the opportunity to exchange. So I will start. So multilingualism. I know. We are in a forum here. I think that we can have a kind of discussion, especially when we talk about languages, because it's something that is for each of us is proud of his language, proud of his culture, her culture. So we just see last Saturday in the Eurovision thing, it was amazing, a mix of cultures, diversity, ways of thinking. So this is culture. This is how we are, how the others understand us, and how we understand the others. So this is the basis of multilingualism, is the basis of the diversity, cultural diversity. Cultural diversity, don't forget that the 21st of May is the day of the cultural diversity. And European Union signed an important convention from UNESCO to protect and enhance the cultural diversity and the cultural expressions. So this is also linked with the European. So Portugal, what to say? Today, what day is it today? Someone knows, even if it's Catholic, but it's the dia da Verge da Fátima. É dia grande. Dia grande para vocês, acho. Por isso que se sentem católicos. Aqui respeitamos tudo. Católicos, muçulmanos e juízes. Todos. O dia, the day of the 5th of May, that was the day of...
The official day of Portuguese languages?
Portuguese language. It was 2 weeks ago, I think, no? 10 days ago.
Yeah.
So this was decided by our General Conference in UNESCO in 2019, during the General Conference. So it was decided by all member states of UNESCO, all countries of the world, at least. And what does it mean to decide that is a national day or the day of Língua Portuguesa? I think that it is a commitment of whole humanity to enhance the protection of this language, for instance, but also of other languages that they are their own day. So this is already something that we need to observe and we need to promote, as we promote the European Day, as we promote other days that they are important for us, as the ambassador or Spanish ambassador here, the day of Spanish also. It's something that needs to be, even if sometimes we think that it's something, well, it's okay, it's something in the calendar, but no, we need to protect and we need to enhance and we need to put efforts and give visibility, and politicians should, in my opinion, should be in the lead of this. And as we have here, the ambassadors, the people who can put the efforts in giving visibility. So give visibility on this vehicle of culture, of knowledge, of identity. We've been in end of April in a beautiful conference organized by the EU presidency, the Belgian presidency in Antwerp. It was an amazing conference in the museum. We talk about this kind of link between heritage, languages, culture, and link with identity. That what else more important than to talk about that? So we need to put culture. Tomorrow, people here, tomorrow here in this building here, we have all ministers of culture of the European Union. And we need to help them because the ambassador, representante permanente, Coreper, put culture in the floor, in the Coreper, please. I know that it's difficult. I know it's not a priority. I know. But put culture, put diversity, put this, because it's our food for thought. Why, for instance, and I was thinking on this, why, for instance, Sissi, the emperor, the empress, and Winston Churchill, why they were to Câmara de Lobos in Funchal, in Madeira, to get well-being, what you said language as a way of well-being, culture as a way of well-being. Why they went there? Because they feel resourced. And they feel resourced because they were painting, they were having fun. So this is culture, and this is why we need culture. It was not a priority for Winston Churchill. It was a priority for his head.
Sweet.
As we said, Mr. Gatz, you said, and you robbed me the final of my intervention, the words of Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
It's a pity. But, because I wanted to say it in Catalan, but I couldn't. Yeah, I will later. But what I can say, what we are doing in education, a lot of things, we are doing a lot of things in culture. We are doing the magnificent work with the World Atlas of Languages, with more than 8,000 languages protected, including sign and spoken languages. And also I wanted to recall another international day that is key on this. It's the 24th of February, the Mother Tongue Day. We are doing a lot, and we are working a lot with the family, with our family. We are a family in the UN, in the ONU. We have a family. We are sometimes a little bit. We are like I was thinking.
Like a family.
We are a family, and you have a good relation and bad relation with the UNDP, with the others, with UNESCO, with the ILO. We have.
This is another topic.
With the Commission, with the Council, with all this. So we are a family, but we work together and we create standards. And we create standards that is really important. The standards, don't forget that, standards, a minimum common denominator, standards, to create the minimum basis to protect something, this. We are advocating more diverse linguistic internet, for instance. We will talk later on this. We are building capacities. We are supporting grassroots activities, initiatives. So thousands of things that we are doing with member states, with you, with Spain, with Portugal, with Belgium, with Flanders. We have beautiful programs. So we are working a lot, and we are trying to push to develop more and more. It's hard, but we need also, what we need? Money. We need funds. Please, Coreper, ask. I am asking, please.
Oriol, this is great because I love the heart you put in it.
I'm not politically correct sometimes. Huh? Sorry.
We love it because it's part of culture, creativity, but I suggest we come back to the session, and call for actions are good. They have been heard. Yeah. So I'd like to turn to Anna for a second round of questions. I think this may have inspired you for some questions, so we'll have a Q&A very soon. But let's hear from Anna, because multilingual competence is a key competence for lifelong learning. And you touch upon that, but I'd just like to know how can we improve this competence? Apart from the tips you gave, is there anything else you'd like to add at this stage?
Sure, but let me just quickly say to Pauline, because I was interested to hear what you were saying. You don't imagine the amount of planning that goes into bringing up your kids in 5 languages, but it can be done. So. So it is one of 8 competencies for lifelong learning, multilingualism. So indeed, like we were saying, key for employability, for mutual understanding, etc. I was telling you that we had this objective of 1+2, language of schooling +2. We are not there yet. We are far from it. We see that about 98% of the young Europeans are learning English at some point in their secondary school. So that is a language that we see progressing a lot. But when we think about the +2, so the second foreign language, there we are not doing so well. There it's about only 35% that at some point are exposed to a second foreign language. So there is still a lot of work there to do. We see also, we are going to publish very interesting data on all this next week, the Eurobarometer on Europeans and their languages, which we are repeating from 2012. So we see how the competencies are going to evolve. But at the moment, we see that about half of Europeans feel confident to speak a foreign language, English most of the time. On the second, it goes down a lot. It's about only 28% that are doing that. We are also monitoring this together with OECD. We are going to introduce a PISA for foreign languages. You know, the PISA exercise that takes place every 3 years. Well, from 2025, we will introduce the monitoring of English. So again, we will be able to see more precisely what exactly are the competences and how we are evolving towards the target. On things that we do to facilitate the learning with member states, we are working together with the European Center for Modern Languages of the Council of Europe a lot. We are giving them training on many fields, for instance, multilingual classrooms. This is a big one because, like, on average, 11.5% of kids have a different language at home than in the classrooms. For Brussels, a lot higher, but the average is this. And so we need to give teachers also tips on how to deal with this, because usually when they trained to be teachers, this is not something that they are asked to, deal with, but it's what they encounter when they are in front of the classroom. They see that a lot of the kids in front of them don't speak the language of schooling necessarily at home. And there is a very simple tip here. Just value all the languages in your classroom, because every mother tongue, even Catalan, are very important for each individual, for each child. And the more that you emphasize that it's important, that it's valued, that it's okay to have all this diversity in the classroom, the more you are building their self-confidence. And the more that their academic achievements will be good. Because, even if you speak another language, you will learn the language of schooling. Of course you will, but, the more you speak your own mother tongue, the better. As you were saying, there are bridges among languages in our brains. So the better you will speak also the other languages. And so just promoting, helping, be sure of what is happening in the classroom, who speaks what, can kids help each other? Some of them might be able to help those who are just arriving. A lot of small tips we can do. And so we have programs on that. We have programs on CLIL, the Content and Language Integrated Learning. This is something that member states are implementing more and more, again, a lot for English, but also for other languages. So there are a lot of things that work well, a lot of digital tools as well that we are promoting because they can help in the classrooms, they can help in individual teaching, in complement to what is happening to the classroom. So
that's great.
Innovative approaches.
I think I'd like to come back to a very important point. It's self-confidence, and that's a perfect transition with Pauline. Maybe, Pauline, quickly, how does multilingualism impact an individual's sense of identity and cultural belonging? I know, Oriol, you touch upon that, but I'd love to have your point of view as well, and maybe briefly, because we started a bit late, but that's, I think it's a key point.
Yes, and I'll have something illustrative. I hope you'll see the drawings I bring. But yes, of course, multilingualism supports the development of bicultural identity, and family languages are important for family cohesion, intimacy between parents and children, and the extended families and communities that speak the language. And we talked about well-being, and there is a word that is bilingual, harmonious bilingualism or harmonious multilingualism. So the subjective well-being of each member of a family regarding the language contact situation. And a few days ago, I went to visit a Portuguese family in my neighborhood, and I asked them to draw a language portrait, and that's something that can be made in classrooms. So Sarah, she's 9 years old, and she drew this. So she chose yellow for French and green for Portuguese. And she explained that the heart and the head are in yellow for French because that's the language she speaks at school and that she can use the most, more than Portuguese. One hand and one foot are in green, the color she chose for Portuguese, because when she goes to Portugal, she discovers a lot of different things, and she touches things, and the ground is also different than here in Belgium.
Maybe I'll hold them so we can compare.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one from her mother. She said that the heart is in red, the color she chose for Portuguese, because she was born in Portugal, and that's the language of her mother, parents, family. The hands are in red for Portuguese because she can hug her mother and grandmother with them. So French is in yellow, and she drew backpack straps because French is the language she uses at work. And there is a smile in yellow because she likes her life here in French-speaking Belgium. And then the little sister, she's 5-year-old, and she drew this with a lot of color, and she said, I did not understand anything, so I did what I wanted to do. So maybe more for school-age children than preschool children.
So, Pauline, I think we could even once again stress the fantastic quote by Nelson Mandela, the heart says it all. Thank you. I think that says it all. Thank you very much for sharing this. Maybe, Oriol, a very short quote from you before we open the floor to the Q&A, because I think we all deserve also a coffee to bring all those ideas together. Maybe you mentioned new technologies, AI, internet. We know the fantastic progresses that those new technologies can bring, and we know the danger regarding ethics, and I'm sure you have something to tell us about it.
Of course. I think that we need to be a little bit aware on this, and more and more we are more aware because we are learning, doing by learning, what's the ChatGPT, what's all the tools that they are in even our kids are more advanced than us. But I think that we need to take into account different aspects, notably on the artificial intelligence, specifically in the way how to take the opportunity in a good way, to use the artificial intelligence in the bright side, for not to harm, but to be as a powerful tool for multilingualism, for instance. There is a huge opportunities, and there are several already works and research that they are being doing on how to give the importance of to protect diversity in this world, in the AI. So we have specifically, and UNESCO adopted in 2021, adopted in a recommendation on the ethics of AI to address ethical issues related to this domain within the UNESCO's mandate in education, in culture, in sciences, also in communication, but also in language, in multilingualism. And we base this recommendation for all member states of UNESCO. So this has been adopted in 21 by all member states. So is in your legislations, in the legislation of each one of member states, to be adopted as a guidance tool for the new legislations that are coming and are in the making. And this is based as a holistic, comprehensive, multicultural, and evolving framework of values, principles, and actions. So I will not now present because it's quite boring in terms of the important. But there is this tool that I can share with you, and then we can share with the audience all these links that I mentioned. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that this is quite complex thing, but is quite important for all of us, is the universal acceptance. This is a fundamental requirement for a truly multilingual and digitally inclusive internet. So this is what is the universal acceptance. is a concept that aims to ensure the internet as a truly global and inclusive, and it addresses a need for the systems powering the internet, such as the websites and the small email services, to accept, understand, and process all domain names and email addresses in all possible scripts and languages. And this includes not only Latin characters, like those used in English and Portuguese and French and Spanish, but also characters from scripts such as Swahili, Soninke, Arabic, or Malay. So this is important, it's really important for the protection of multilingualism and for the protection of all the languages. So this has been reflected in a recommendation that was already in October 2003 adopted by UNESCO member states. But now we need to work on it.
Exactly.
And we did a survey, a recent survey, and the results are promising.
They are promising?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so I will not go
good. No,
because I have.
We love hope.
We could stay here.
Okay.
Citation of Mr. Mandela in Catalan, please.
Yeah, I have it here because, sorry,
Actually,
at the end.
If I may, yes, it will be to close the session before the coffee. I love to hear it as well. Thank you, Oriol.
Yes.
Let me open the floor for questions. I have 2 or 3 questions I can take. I see 3 ladies. Madame. Thank you, Minister. Madame, there is a microphone coming. If you could please give your name and to who you'd like to address the question.
Okay, my name is Teresa Presas, and I have 3 questions to Pauline Wiley. If you're staying here, I'll do it. We'll do it over coffee break. And one for Ana Soule, and the other one for Oriol, but he's now busy. Regarding you, I would like to hear a bit to answer. What is the objective of the European Commission in, for example, 1+2? Are we talking about European languages, or are we talking, languages from Lingali, Swahili, Arabic? Because this is such a multilingual society. Are you doing this only for Europe? And you talked about the Erasmus Plus program. Why are you extending it, the Erasmus, to non-European countries all over the world, instead of trying to reach the objective of Erasmus, which is to get Europeans to know each other better, culturally, but also historical or whatever?
Thank you. Maybe if
for Oriol, which is much easier, and that's just to ask, what are standards in this matter?
Standards are what we said.
No, but
recommendations.
Yeah.
Recommendation is a standard already.
Voilà.
Conventions are standards.
Okay.
Should be applied and should be, like in the Commission,
Okay.
the directives, the regulations, the laws.
I thought it was standards really related to.
They are really related, all.
No, but that's.
You have to.
Okay.
It's juridic. It's a juridic discussion.
So if I may, thank you. We'll address the first question. Thank you for the second, so that's good. The lady in the back, please. I'll take a few questions and then we'll address.
Good morning. Thank you for this seminar. It's quite interesting. My name is Louise Oliveira. I'm a teacher of Portuguese.
Yeah. The mic is not working.
If you don't mind to put the microphone.
Mrs.
I'm sorry, could you put the microphone closer so we can hear you? Thank you.
It's close enough? Okay.
Perfect.
And I'd like to ask a question to Mrs. Solemena. You talked about several programs, quite interesting. I'd like to know, they are programs at school, but they are how you get to know these programs? Because at school I never heard anything about that. Of course, English here is very popular in many schools here in Belgium, but how you get to know these programs with other languages?
Okay, that's great, because indeed these kind of platforms are also to learn and to exchange. I think there were one lady there, please. and then we'll ask the panelists to answer.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I would like to address my question to Pauline. I really liked the visuals that you used to depict how people feel when they speak certain languages. Do you ever notice that there is a difference in how people express themselves to the world? Are they more abstract in certain languages, more assertive in other ones? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, could you just rephrase your question? I'm not sure to understand it.
Of course, sorry. Do you notice that people tend to be more maybe assertive in some languages, more academic in others, philosophical?
Thank you for the question. Anna, you had the first question on Erasmus Plus and the languages you promote.
Yes, so the first one was about the 1+2 and are those European languages or not? Well, it's true that the recommendation at some point says one of them could be a European language, but one of them. But so the 1+2 is really any language. For instance, if we are here in Belgium, you are in a Dutch school, you have Portuguese at home, that's one of your languages. You learn English at school, that's already, or French, you know, like. So it can be really any mix. Erasmus Plus is true that a lot of the financing goes into mobility within Europe and cooperation projects, but it's not only Europe. So we are also using Erasmus Plus to travel outside the European Union or to get people here from other countries. So that is already something that is possible. And yeah, all the world languages are encouraged in the 1+2. Of course, we see that there is English is emerging as a lingua franca. This is something that is happening, and we just have to observe it, and it's quite handy, but it's never enough, you know, like if you really want to take advantage of the European space to study, do research, work, you need also to understand the culture of the places you are going, and the more languages that you know, the more that you are open-minded and able to enjoy the possibilities of the European Union space.
Thank you, Anna. Maybe the question from the teacher?
And then for the teachers, thank you for that. So indeed, we do so many things, and there is such a wealth of Erasmus projects that we finance, like you talked about 2 of them. There are thousands of projects about language learning within Erasmus+. But platforms for teachers that are directly accessible, the first one is a European School Education Platform. So if you type that in Google, it's esep.eu. There, you know, then you type your research and you have free courses, you have articles, you have a lot of things for teachers, not only on language learning, on all kind of subjects, really. So it's for teachers at large. And then our partner, the ECML, European Center for Modern Languages of the Council of Europe. So they have a lot in their website also, which we co-finance. And there you can go to ecml.at because they are based in Gatz, Austria. But a lot of resources financed also by ourselves for teachers, and in particular multilingual classrooms.
That's great. Thank you. Maybe Pauline, you can address the question from the young lady, please.
Yes. Yeah, and then I'll make it short. So, what I'm most specialized in is that the fact that language skills are distributed between languages, because you, as a child, you acquire a language in a context with someone about a topic. So maybe you have some words and lexical category in one language, in the other, some overlap. And this is true for vocabulary, of course, but also for communication style, more formal, more familiar, humor. And this is related to identity as well. So in a language and in the context in which you learned the language, some attitudes and values are more present than in the other language or cultural community of the other language. So I don't know any tool to draw or to visually represent this specific element about the identity you have in a language, but probably there are some. And I've heard that in language classes, you can adopt a new name. So if I'm in my Portuguese classroom, I'm not Pauline, but I will be, I don't know, Anna or Paula. Or, and this contributes to the language learning because you are in a new identity. My teachers did not do that with me in the past, and I would have loved that. And I think often there are some barriers in learning new languages because you feel like threatened in your identity and you don't dare new behaviors, new way of communicating, and this can help. So maybe not drawing something, but choosing a new name or nickname could be a nice tip.
Thank you, and thank you for the question, because I think it reflects the essence and why multilingualism is so essential. Yeah. It's the creativity, the diversity, the richness of it. I'm aware that we didn't answer exactly the questions, but time is there. Oriol, you had one question for a panelist, and then we'd love to hear you before I conclude. To hear you in Catalan. Because we promoted Portugal, we promoted with the Minister of Belgium. I think we can have a 1-minute promotion of the Catalan language.
No, just... No, I wanted to, on the Erasmus Mundus, what is being done tackling languages? Or there is any room of experiences, not with Erasmus Mundus, the program that is more international, not only in Europe, but also connecting Europe and
the rest of the world.
Nothing in particular, but it's just a mobility. But as usual, we are always open to cooperation projects. The thing with Erasmus cooperation projects is they are bottom-up. You know?
Of course.
Somebody has to come up with a good project, and then we can finance it.
And we can find even the unexpected results on this mobility.
True.
That people don't think, but they are really results of this caused by the mobility in terms of languages. And I'm a product. I mean, I'm an Erasmus boy also. We are more of us. I think I did the stage here in the Commission also. It's something,
I would have guessed. Yeah.
A lab. They are lab. Brussels is an amazing place for these kind of experiences. So I think that we need to have some researchers on this in an Horizon Europe program project that can go to the point on these kind of aspects.
On this, I think
let's think about that.
Oriol said it all. Multilingualism is an asset for Europe today, in the future, for the generation of children and young people, young leaders of tomorrow, and for the rest of the world. Let's not forget it. So on this, I would like you to join me in thanking Anna, Pauline, and Oriol. Thank you for all of you for your attention, your interest, and I suggest we continue the conversation outside with a coffee before it continues. Would you like
the quote?
The quote.
It's just one line. Is the words of Sven Gatz said
So the quote of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, that is a kind of motto of all the multilingualism.
Let's hear the quote.
But I will say in Catalan.
Please.
Okay? So, si parles amb un home en la seva llengua, que comprèn, això li va al seu cap. Si parles amb ell amb la seva pròpia llengua, va al seu cor. Gràcies.
C'était un plaisir de vous rencontrer.
Embajador, ¿cómo estamos? Muy bien, muy fresca la presentación. Se ha sido...
If I speak like this. So I think we are okay to open the second panel that I'm very pleased to moderate. I'm in such great company, and that's what I'll start to do to introduce the company. So to my right, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Brazil to Belgium, João Mendes Pereira. Professor António Branco, Director General for Portugal and Clarin Research Infrastructure for Science and Technology of Language, and also Professor at the University of Lisbon. And to my further left, Rui Azevedo, Head of Division of Programming, Training and Certification of Camões IP. Camões IP, which is also my house. I'm a lecturer of Portuguese in Belgium, so I teach in a multilingual context, so I teach at the Université Libre de Bruxelles and University of Antwerp. And so the first panel, sorry? So like this? Is this one better?
No.
So this is the best we can do. I'll try to speak up a little bit. I can also do it without microphone because I'm used to talking to audiences. Sorry? Yes? And so the first panel, we addressed multilingualism in Europe, underlining what an asset it is for the future of Europe, but for the future of individuals, of course. This second panel will focus on the Portuguese case. We saw that valuing each and every language is a way towards an active, positive multilingualism. And so today, this panel is about the Portuguese language in specific. So Portuguese language in Belgium, in Europe, and in the world. So a bit ambitious as topic. And Portuguese language, because reminding us that we are here today to celebrate the Portuguese Language Day. It was said on the first panel that it was proclaimed by UNESCO in 2019, but I would also like to remind that this date, prior to 2019, was already in the setting of CPLP, the Community of Portuguese-speaking countries,
was already the day that we celebrate Portuguese language and cultural diversity under Portuguese language. And so, picking up on what was underlined by the Secretary-General of the UN, António Guterres, the pluricentric nature of Portuguese language and hence its diverse nature, I will address Mr. Ambassador first, asking him to speak to us a little bit about Portuguese language in Brazil, because we're talking about language diversity. Brazil, this huge country of some 200 million speakers. So please talk to us a little bit about how diverse is Portuguese language in Brazil.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the Embassy of Portugal in the name of the Ambassador Jorge Cabral, a friend of all life, and also to salute the Ambassador of Mozambique present here. Thank you for your presence here. And also Mr. Rui Vaz, Professor Antonio Branco, and Professor Ana Corga to participate in this panel with me. Well, Portuguese language transcends border and is characterized by its pluricentrism. It's a language that brings together the countries of the Community of Portuguese Language Countries, the CPLP, allowing the articulation of immense diversity of cultures in each of our countries. In Brazil, it's not different. It's possible to be exposed to a diversity of indigenous language to listen to a great variety of regional accents. For example, it's estimated that we have around 250 languages spoken in Brazil, from indigenous and Afro-Brazilians to immigration language, in addition, of course, to the Portuguese and its varieties in the northeast part of Brazil, in the north, in the south, that help unite Brazil as it is today. The Brazilian Institutes of Indigenous Peoples, as well, the Institute of National Historic and Artist Heritage, they try to implement an inventory and preserve all this language. For example, we have just last year, if I'm not wrong, the Brazilian Constitution has its first version in the indigenous language, Nigatu. It was a very interesting initiative from our Supreme Court to present to indigenous peoples the Constitution in one of those languages. No? At the same time, Portuguese grants us a common dimension to our reality, a unite that connects us for centuries. The same applies to our connections with our friends of the CPLP. We count something like 260 million people in Brazil. The last year we finished to count the 10 years count by the IBGE, which counts every 10 years the population. We are at now in 209 Brazilians. The diversity of voices in the CPLP give us the privilege of having a variety of talented writers from the canonic Camões, of course, to the contemporary Itamar Vieira Júnior, without forgetting Mia Couto, Machado de Assis, Agostinho Neto, and so many other writers, poets, and lyricists. So it's a melting pot where Brazil is involved, and we try to give us a contribution on this matter. I would like also, if you allow me, Anna, to present our gratitude to the Portuguese language countries that shown solidarity to Brazil in this very complicated moment we are living now. And thank you very much for the expressions of solidarity with the devastating flows that are taking place right now when I'm speaking in Rio Grande do Sul. It's parallel catastrophe in Brazil. And the demonstrations of support, especially coming from the CPLP countries, touch us very much. Solidarity is a representative of the cooperation between Brazil-speaking countries. One of the main aspects that we try to enhance and develop more and more in our CPLP. This is how we try to face many of the challenges that Brazil are part, as well as the other countries of CPLP.
Thank you so much. You spoke about the fact that Portuguese language cohabits with minority languages in Brazil. This is the case also throughout Portuguese-speaking countries in the world, where Portuguese language touches the other national languages. And it made me think, you also quoted some or cited some important Portuguese language writers, and it made me think about something that Mia Couto says in a movie from well, someone who's an example of CPLP mobility, Vitor Lopes, if I'm not mistaken. He's born in Mozambique, but of Brazilian nationality, I think. And in a movie called Língua, Vidas em Português, Mia Couto says something very interesting, which is Portuguese language, a língua portuguesa sujou-se. But of course, so got on the ground, got dirty in a way, but a very positive way, by the contact with these languages. So this contact does enrich Portuguese.
Transform us in a melting pot.
Portuguese language varieties, of course. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. I will now address Professor António Branco. Recent advances in artificial intelligence, especially in their application to language technology, necessarily leads, and these are your words, or may lead to the assumption that the use of Portuguese language will soon be done through permanent technological intermediation. My question is, what work has been done to prepare Portuguese language for this technological use, and was there collaboration with universities from other Portuguese-speaking countries in that process?
Muito obrigado, Ana. Bom dia a todos, bom dia aos meus colegas de mesa e muito obrigado, Sr. Embaixador. Eu já volto para o inglês, claro. Good morning, everyone. Going directly to answer your question, there is, for 30 years now, a conference that is organized, a scientific conference that is organized every other year, one time in Brazil, another time in Portugal, devoted to the computational processing of Portuguese language. So we form a community, we know each other very well, all the colleagues from Brazil and all the colleagues from Portugal, who are working on language technology. That's another term to refer to this, or these days to generative artificial intelligence applied to the Portuguese language. So this work comes from all this time, so 30 years now, and we have been cooperating together, and we have been obviously supporting and doing our best to prepare the Portuguese language for the digital age. What has been done well? Whatever has been done at the universities and the research centers, mostly in Brazil and Portugal, but also in some other laboratories of companies that are interested in exploring tools that handle digital tools and services that handle Portuguese. Obviously, all this reflects both the demographics of the speaking persons, the number of speakers of the different languages. Portuguese is the fourth or the fifth language, the largest number of speakers around the world, and there are at least 7,000 different languages in the world, so it's a very happy situation. But on the other hand, it reflects also, say, the way to put it, the economic importance for companies of really taking care of the computational processing of Portuguese. And obviously that this has to do with the revenues and the profits that companies think they can do. And Portuguese, in that term, Portuguese perhaps not placed in fifth position, can be not even in the top 10, but perhaps in the top 20 for the interest of companies it is, which is not that bad. Well, when we think about the 7,000 and all these 6,900 something other languages that may not have at all the interest of the companies, large or small. So I think this kind of answers your question.
Thank you so much. Rui Azevedo, now for you. So as it happened in the first panel, we'll go through 2 rounds of questions, and then we'll open to the floor. Rui Azevedo, in the first panel, we heard Professor Pauline van der Straten-Wede speak about the cognitive development in multilingual children, as well as the impact of multilingualism in individuals' sense of identity and cultural belongings. Anna Sode spoke then about the confidence and the impact that it has then in academic achievement even. So bearing in mind the importance of formal instruction in family languages to provide rich and diverse input as to increase language proficiency, I would ask you, what is the role of Camões IP in promoting Portuguese language learning in Belgium in particular?
Thank you. Bom dia, good morning. Sr. Embaixador de Portugal, Sr. Embaixador do Brasil, caro colega de painel, professor António Branco, caros professores, porque há aqui muitos professores portugueses presentes, so ambassadors, dear colleagues, teachers from our network, dear guests, thank you so much, and it's a pleasure for me to be here representing on behalf of the president of Camões Institute. Yes, as we have discussed all this morning, the multilingualism is important, and that is taking that from the beginning. The Camões Institute is responsible for the Portuguese teaching abroad or education abroad since 2010. Previously, the Minister of Education was responsible for that, and from 2010 onwards until now, many improvements were made. Actually, our groups, our pupils, we have a huge diversity in our classrooms. So the multilingualism is present every day. And we have said, learning Portuguese, especially for children of Portuguese origin, can have several advantages for their cognitive development. And some of the key benefits, I can say some of them, I can tell you some of them, it's well known. Cultural identity and heritage, bilingualism and cognitive benefits, enhanced memory, academic advantages, communication skills, social benefits, career opportunities, cognitive reserve, has been the bilingualism mostly has been associated with a higher cognitive reserve, which can delay the onset of cognitive decline and dementia in later life. Empathy and sensitivity, multitasking abilities. So, having this in mind, the Camões Institute has developed a network around the world with 324 teachers in 76 countries, and in particular in Belgium, we have 670 students, pupils from. I'm talking just about the basic and secondary pupils schools. So we have 670 students, pupils, with 5 teachers and in 23 schools. So, and I was previously, I'm now at headquarters, and previously I was coordinated for Portuguese education in Germany, and I was coordinating a group of 37 teachers. And I know perfectly, perhaps here in Brussels differently from other cities, but I'm perfectly aware of the heterogeneous pupils we have in our classrooms. So, and our aim propose is to get to those children who perhaps they have, mostly they have Portuguese parents, both, but they can have a Portuguese parent, a Spanish parent, Italian or Belgian, whatever. And they have to take classes in the countries of where they live. So our aim is firstly to train the teachers to respond to these challenges. And since 2010, we're doing that. And we have, mostly in countries where we had Portuguese communities, we developed these extracurricular classes in Belgium, in these 23 schools with these 5 teachers I mentioned before, and our concern is that how can I say, to try to promote the Portuguese teaching classes, but as well to seduce the students, the pupils, to the Portuguese language, to reach the Portuguese origins. When I'm talking about the Portuguese, I'm not talking about just only about Portuguese people. The parents are actually in our network are from the Portuguese-speaking countries as well. So we have Brazilian students, Angolan students, Mozambican students. So these Portuguese-speaking countries courses we have try to reach these targets. And then that's why we developed a very good plan of training the Portuguese teachers to reach the public they have in front of them. So I'm just talking about at the level of basic and secondary school, but we have as well as in the world. Here in Belgium, a lecturer in 2 universities, and a teacher, a professor as well in another university in Ghent, I believe. So we offer the Portuguese extracurricular or training Portuguese teachers in universities from the basic until the higher education. I don't know if I missed something.
Yes, maybe I would ask you if there's any difference between Portuguese facilities or Portuguese teaching in, how do you say Wallonia in English? So between the Francophone part of the country and the Netherlandophone part of the country, is there a difference
Flanders?
is there a difference on how?
Yeah, but actually we proposed a partnership to the institutions responsible for education, but we're trying to reach all the targets, all the possibilities, and we are dealing with the institutions, negotiating with the institutions in order to reach all the country. Yes.
Okay. Maybe I can add the figures of higher education. I think
perhaps it's better because you are.
I think in
I have the numbers here, but you.
Yeah, just for the figures, I think that for higher education this year we had around 90 students of Portuguese between Brussels and Antwerp University. Also in a very multilingual setting, because the majority of my students are not of Portuguese origin. There's really a very slight percentage of students that are. Some of them are actually present here today. I forgot to mention this, so some of my students have given us the pleasure to join the seminar. Thank you so much for coming, even because some of you came from Antwerp, so thank you so much for that. And so just to add the numbers for higher education, which grow every year and really show the relevancy. The majority of my students are actually students that choose Portuguese as a third foreign language. And so in some sense, you were talking about, you spoke about the economic interest of Portuguese language. And I think these figures and the fact that they increase yearly also represent a recognition by the students of the importance that Portuguese can have in their future career. I will now address Mr. Ambassador again. So we have heard Rui Azevedo speak about Camões' presence, especially in Belgium, and regarding the work done in the field of language promotion, which is just one of the pillars of Camões, which also deals with cooperation and culture. And so what I will ask you to do is to share with us your insight on the perception of Portuguese language in the field of cooperation with third countries, and even following the prompt of Oriol Matalonga this morning, putting culture in the center of that. So I would be particularly interested in cooperation in the field of culture and in knowing if there is a particular instrument to promote a common action in this field.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Anna, for your question. Well, in Brazil, we have the Brazilian Agency of Cooperation. We have right now with the CPLP countries around, I would say, 600 projects developed and in development right now. And in many areas and issues like health, trainment on public administration, and even, for example, in questions related to development of projects in central banks, cooperation between central banks. And, but I would like, for example, to give you three kinds of examples of cooperation. The first one I like very much is the Human Milk Bank. It's a project with partnership of Fiocruz, which is a health institution very known in Brazil, and already implemented in 23 countries like Cabo Verde, Angola, Mozambique, and benefits millions of children and women. And this is a project, this project is well known for being able to generate excellent results with a simple and low-cost solution. No? But we have other projects, for example, for professional training centers in Cabo Verde, Mozambique, Guiné-Bissau, São Tomé e Príncipe, Angola, Timor-Leste, and also trilateral cooperation, especially with our support from each other between Brazil and Portugal in other countries. All these are are examples how Portuguese can enhance the cooperation in the CPLP. Of course, arts and culture are central in the cooperation between our Portuguese-speaking countries. We have recently created the Instituto Guimarães Rosa, clearly inspired by the good initiative from Portugal with the Instituto Camões. And we just celebrated on last March a memorandum of understanding between Instituto Guimarães Rosa and Instituto Camões. But let's say that beyond all these national initiatives, we here in Brussels, we have an already consolidated cooperation between our two embassies. Last year, for example, in the celebrations of the CPLP, we did a concert in the embassy uniting the Brazilian chorinho with the Portuguese fado. It was a very, very interesting initiative, and it stimulates us to continue. And we are planning, and we are in the final details for our next initiative, bilateral initiative, and we will try to include other CPLP countries to hold on May 27 at Le Baixo Cultural Center a new recital. Details will be announced soon, you will see in our pages. And we have also high level of political dialogue between Portuguese-speaking countries. I can mention, for example, that specifically in the economic development is something that we would like to stress, and this particularly of interest of President Lula that visited already in his first year of this term, Angola, Portugal, and São Tomé e Príncipe. And of course, I could not end to mention this initiative that they are all helping to develop culture and using the culture as an instrument to help the Portuguese language. The initiative that we are now, I would like to remember that we are now in the presidency of the G20. And we invited Angola and Portugal to take part in the G20 deliberations during our presidency. And we established social inclusion and fight against hunger and poverty, energy transition and promotion of sustainable development, and reform of global governance institutions as some of the priorities in our agenda as presidency of the G20. We are counting on the support of Portugal and Angola to giving us insights and their vision, and bringing also all the visions of all the CPLP and ACP countries to this presidency. These are all areas of common interest in which we are thankful to be able to work with Portuguese-speaking countries, and especially in the field of culture, that we not only reproduce the instructions we receive from our capital, but with the support of the embassies here, we try to develop some initiatives. I'm in the second year right now as ambassador. In the first year, I received an agenda that was established previously in other administrations. I like it very much. We made 6 or 7 expositions, very important expositions. But in a certain moment, I said to my head of this cultural sector, Councillor Camilo is here, look, I need music in this embassy. So we started not only with these initiatives, but also in the embassy. Last year, we made a very interesting recital of cello and piano with a Brazilian expert, Fábio Pesgrave, with Professor Teresa Cristina, that is professor of the University of Leuven here. And it was fantastic. We also support the presentation of some Brazilian students in many institutions, Belgian institutes, conservatories in Belgium. We did it in very recently in the how is the name? Is that the Museum of Music here in Brussels, instruments, and it was. I expected some 50, 60 people there. We had more than 150 students from all around Brussels, and including people from Antwerp that asked me, when we will start something in Antwerp? And we are just right now trying to develop a project there. And of course, we will continue. 2 months ago, I promoted the first Roda de Samba in the embassy, with the it was another important moment. We are planning right now the new spectacle with some Brazilian, always with Brazilian and CPLP lyricists, and we will promote something related to bossa nova. And I would like also to count on the support of our colleagues from the CPLP to try to find other types of music to unite, because when we did the initiative with chorinho and fado, people said chorinho and fado, and it was precisely listening to Musique 3 that I heard some Portuguese instrumentalists, modern, using styles of chorinho there. And I said, look, they are together. We have to unite this. And it was very interesting, and we will try to give to the community other types of initiatives like that one.
Okay. As the responsible for the Portuguese Language Center, I'd be very happy to collaborate because we also tend to put the focus on the variety of cultures and the Portuguese language, and we've received writers from other Portuguese-speaking countries other than Portugal. So remember us next time. I'll be very happy to cooperate. Going back to Professor António Branco, and also going back to the language learning topic and IA language model tools, I would like to have your thoughts regarding the impact on demand for learning Portuguese languages, considering the dependency that we are creating on these linguistic tools. In the first panel, we spoke about those tools as complements to the language learning, of course. But as Professor Pauline underlined, it doesn't erase the need for contact with real people, as she said. But still, your insight on this, and also considering that the languages most used on the internet will have more opportunities to feed AI, and bearing in mind that Portuguese is the 5th most used language on internet, I wonder which do you think may be the impact on demand for linguistic tools in Portuguese?
Okay, thank you, Anna. I'm taking first your topic, which is, sorry, this air condition is killing me. Because what's going to happen very soon, or it's already happening, is that with these AI tools, and they are so good, in the coming months, in the coming years, we will not use languages, whatever language, Portuguese, English, or whatever. We will not use language without a permanent technological intermediation. This may sound a bit awkward, but that's what's going to happen. Whatever the channel we use to communicate, say, picking the phone and talk to a friend, being together in a meeting, all these will involve resorting to technological intermediation. When we call, there will be, after we hang up, a report, a short summary made after the transcription of our call. Remember the promises we did with our mother we were talking to, that we were going to pour water on the plants when she was away. Or when we did the meeting, then the proceedings will be produced automatically. And when we just type in a button, we have a timeline of the interactions in WhatsApp with a given friend, saying how positive or negative went our relation in the past 4 months, and so on and so forth. So everything will, obviously, when we go abroad, say in tourism or whatever, we will talk to our phone, smartphone, and the other person in his smartphone will listen in the native language. So everything will be more or less pretty much permanently intimidated by technology, by language technology, by artificial intelligence. No problem with that, no problem with scientific and technological advance. The issue here is that these advances, as it stands now, can be and are being provided only by a few big techs, just 3 or 4 big techs. And all this technology requires our talk, our text, our communication goes through the computational servers of these big techs and come back to our smartphones, to our desktops, to our PCs, whatsoever. So this creates a huge dependency. We know already what is to be dependent on 2 or 3 providers of internet search, like Google or others. But okay, that is not as crucial as being intermediated to use the most basic communication means we have, which is our natural language, our Portuguese speaking, or our English speaking, French speaking, whatsoever. So this will be a very tremendous dependency. And I'm going to put it very shortly and very bluntly, will be in the hands of 3 or 4 big techs if nothing changes. So the mission we assigned to ourselves in our research group, and I'm trying to really campaign for this, is that we need to democratize this technology. We need to open it up in the way of open source, open code, open license, and open distribution to as many players as possible, big and small organizations, public and private, for research and for commercial exploration. So by enlarging the number of providers of this kind of services, we diminish our dependence only to a handful of them. And that's, I think, the way. To proceed, we were gathering this year in one of these conferences I told you about, that where Brazilian colleagues and Portuguese colleagues, researchers, scientific researchers met every other year. We met this year in March, and we decided to issue an appeal that is now online to receive, like a petition to receive, to open to people who want to sign it. We have already over 500 people who sign it, and it is appeal basically to the authorities with no nationality, with no name, just authorities, to really put forward a plan for the technological preparation of the Portuguese language for the age of artificial intelligence. And the key suggestion is to really help with gathering data and making this data available such that other actors can build on this data to produce their applications and their solutions and make business out of this, to produce large language models that are open source and then can be used by startups, by companies other than the big techs, and provide services in Portuguese, and also obviously to put a better, more strong effort on education and on training, because there are only a handful of people knowing to produce these large language models. There are 2 or 3 in my group, perhaps my 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 in other groups in Brazil, but not much more than this. So we need to enlarge this knowledge base much farther away than this. So coming to your topic about dependency, we need to really get rid of this dependency, because the solution is not to stop scientific progress, and all technology comes with dual use, comes with opportunities and risks, and we usually say when people invented boats, they invented also wreckages, and that's not because of that we gave up from using boats. What we have done across the centuries, and we are still doing now, we are trying to improve safety measures for people who use boats. So that's what we have to do. We should not give up from this technology. We need to produce more technology that really mitigates the risks that this one can present to us. So that's an appeal, and an appeal that I reproduce here about this dependency. The other thing, I used to say we need to go for the 2Ds. In Portuguese, democratizar and bring inside domiciliar, so bring inside organizations this technology. Because we need also to get out of this loop that goes outside to the servers of providers and bring these large language models into the organization, to the computers of the organizations, such that this better safeguards the privacy of the data, of the use of the collaborators of those organizations. And for the benefit of time and also my colleagues, I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. So your 2Ds, maybe think about the 3Ds that we recently celebrated on the 25th of April. And so two new 2Ds that really remind us of the ethical problems linked to the progress of...
Yeah, but there are so many people already taking care of that, but they are kind of, this is kind of keeping in a blind spot. Yeah. And if you permit me, allow me, in Europe, and I'm here at the heart of Europe, we are much more with this attitude of surrounding ourselves with defenses against the nuisance and risks of this new technology. No problem with that, but we need also to regain agency with respect to this technology and ourselves be producers at the front line of this, and that's the best way to really manage and control this technology in our benefit. Europe now, there is no more chances. Every year there is a report called AI Index, and in the past few years this AI Index indicated that Europe was lagging behind China and behind the US. But people tend to see some indicators compensating for that. But the last AI Index report that came out 2 weeks ago or 3, there is no way to really mitigate that. Europe is lagging behind. Europe is focusing only, that's okay, but it's focused only on defending itself from the risks and for the negative parts, but we need to be agents of this transformation. We need to put our hands and bring our hands into really managing this by producing and by developing this technology ourselves at the level that the other competitors of Europe are doing.
And ensuring that these are democratic tools.
Yeah.
So to finish the panel, I'll address Rui Azevedo once again. So you talked before about Camões' action in Belgium, particularly with focus on language learning. I already said that that's just one of the pillars of Camões IP, but for today's purpose, it's what we're focusing on. I would now ask you to talk about the scenario of Portuguese teaching in the world, also the part led by Camões. And I wonder if you'd like to share any particularly successful cases. You spoke about improvements in the last decade, and I know that, for example, in the US and China, which are two major world powers, the demand has increased considerably in the last 10 years. Also, the Minister of Brussels Capital, Mr. Sven Gatz, he also spoke on his presentation. One of the means of stimulating multilingualism was a link to the business world, and I know that Camões also has that process of connection with the business world. So I would like you to please talk a bit about what's going on in the world.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to emphasize the importance of this MOU signed with Brazil and the Instituto Guimarães Rosa is very important for us. Of course, the cooperation between Portugal and Brazil existed before the creation of the Guimarães Rosa Institute, but with this umbrella we can work more and together as a joint group and develop joint programs and projects which are considered to be of mutual interest and predominantly in the fields of the Portuguese language development and in the area of education. But I myself was a lecturer in Buenos Aires in the late 97s, so 1997, last century, and I was a lecturer and I worked very close to our colleague, Brazilian colleague, lecturer of Brazil, so it's important. And we have a case of success here nowadays. It was signed a protocol with UNIS, the United Nations International School, and we have this protocol and we offer the two varieties so far of the Portuguese language, the European Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese. So we have a Portuguese teacher there, and Brazil has a Portuguese teacher there as well. I hope in the future we can have the African varieties of Portuguese as well, because perhaps sooner than we expect, hopefully. So, Portuguese, it's a lot to say. I will synthesize. So, we have a network of Portuguese teaching abroad, the EPE, Ensino Português no Estrangeiro. Is present in 17 countries, Europe, in North and in Southern America, and in Africa. We have this supported network, United States, Canada, Venezuela, and Australia, where the teachers are nationals, and they are hired by the local governments. And then we have this official network of 13 countries, where the Camões Institute hires the teachers to teach there. I was talking about the 5 we have here in Belgium. We have 324 teachers abroad for these primary and secondary schools, 324 from our network, and in total we have 964 teachers who teach Portuguese abroad in these 17 countries, covering 1,433 schools, and in total we have more than 70,000 students. We support this. We're talking about the extracurricular courses, but we have these protocols and partnerships with local institutions in 35 countries, education systems, where the Portuguese is integrated in the curricula, not the subject is integrated. We have these other protocols in the scope of the network of schools and associated centers project. A school or an association of Portuguese people can apply for this to apply for this network of institutions that also support the teaching abroad. So, just to sum up, we are in 76 countries. We have these in chairs, 64 chairs for investigation in high school, higher education institutions. In the area of the cultural area, we have 19 cultural centers for Camões Institute, because the Camões Institute has 3 pillars: cooperation, culture, and language. We have lectures, 54. One of those are here, my name, and other 307 protocols with other institutions. 86 Portuguese language centers, which are a resource center for Portuguese teaching and learning. And last year we awarded 157 scholarships spread over 8 programs, including 201 scholarship holders from 57 countries. Allow me to, I know we are running out of time, but allow me to talk about the project. The recent project of the Camões Institute is the digitization of the EPE, and Portuguese teaching abroad, as part of the Camões overall democratization process under the Recovery and Resilience plan. A project was authorized to digitize the EPE, the Portuguese Teaching Abroad, which is seen as a digital educational ecosystem of content, tools, services, platforms, and equipment that will speed up the pedagogical, didactic, communicative, and administrative process between all the members of the educational community who take part in this broad teaching and education network. The Teaching and Learning Program aims, on the one hand, to make computer equipment available to students on extracurricular EP courses, on loan to teachers and students in the EP network, these 324 plus the other of the supported network, equipment, and on the other hand, to provide tools to promote the pedagogical transformation of teaching practices and learning strategies in EP. We are going to, we started last year, and the aim is in 3 years distribute to 22,000 equipments to the students. So, cases of success. Yes. You mentioned the USA. So in
USA and China, yes.
USA, we have 20,289 students in primary and secondary education, and 2,054 students in higher education, supported by 414 teachers and 7 chairs. So we develop with our network there, with our coordination, the NUAL is the exam that the students, the American students have to do to go to the university. So we have this program, and in 2024, 402 Portuguese students have registered to take this exam in order to go to the university. China. Actually, the growing interest in China is we have actually, let me see, 50,000 students in the 50 universities, and going further to develop these numbers in the future. I think it's all now.
I think it has to be all, because time is creeping up, and I wouldn't like to close the table before passing the word to the floor. I don't know if anyone has any questions they would like to address to one of our panelists. Yes, just a second. I think we will do one question at a time, because it will depend on how long the answer takes.
I will merge two questions in one.
Okay.
Important what the ambassador from Brazil said, to link the languages and also the heritage and cultural heritage elements. I think that we should break these silos in terms of to take the best from each other. And all the work that you are doing, the CPLP is doing. I was working a lot with the OACP, so the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. We have a beautiful group that has been really a powerful tool to move for multilingualism, but also on culture and sustainable development. So I think that it's need to enhance this. And in relation to the CAMOES work, how the CAMOES is working in the unique perspectives, global unique, on Ancamoes unique. The unique is the network of institutes of culture. So how you are linking the multilingualism and the cultural cooperation in the partner countries? I don't know, in the how concrete. I know several things, but I think that the link of multilingualism and cultural cooperation is crucial here, and specifically in the países de língua portuguesa, acho the África do Oeste. Então, isso queria perguntar. Obrigado.
Yeah?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, as you may know, we have our network participates in the clusters of UNIC around the world, and we are ourselves at the headquarters. We have this proximity through the culture department, which I don't represent here. I'm representing Camões as well, but one thing I can say to you is that we are a member of the UNIC, as you know. So we articulate all our policies in the cultural area and language area with the UNIC headquarters, and then with the clusters. We belong to the cluster, and we participate in Lisbon in the cluster of our city meetings. So we are aware of the importance of these programs we have to emphasize and to create or develop. And as we have a network our network is distributed in 76 countries. In most of these countries, we participate in the cluster of UNIC, and sometimes we have this function of president or deputy president or deputy director. So we in respect to the areas of where we are implemented, we develop with our partners, with the other national institutes for culture, the policies that emanate from the EU and from Portugal as well. So, and we have this particular emphasis in the multicultural aspects of our culture, our languages. So.
Just in order to say that it's good to enhance this cooperation, but also think about how we can cooperate at the UNESCO level, the UN level, also in these three pillars of cooperation that is really useful at country level.
Yes. When I was in South Africa, I was a coordinator in South Africa. Actually, South Africa, Namibia, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, and Botswana, and I was one of the members of the cluster UNIC in Pretoria. So, and we had these cultural institutes, but also the language institutes. The French had the Alliance Française. We have the two servants. So we always work in partnership together with the national institutes, not only for culture but for language as well, because in some countries there are two institutions, as you know.
I don't want to take time of the floor. I'm just a moderator, but I will add something to that. Because actually I was a lecturer because you asked about the relation, this triangle with UNESCO. And in Congo, there was a great example of how that worked, because like Rui said, depending on the country where the cluster is implanted, the policy will be different, of course. And in Kinshasa, one of the concerns of the cluster was to value the local culture, obviously. And so the cluster played an important role in what then led to the recognition of Rumba, as Congolese Rumba, as immaterial. Exactly. So sorry, didn't want to eat up the time, which is creeping up, but still, there was another question.
My name is Eduardo Dacia. I'm journalist. I'm original from Cabo Verde. My question goes to the ambassador of Brazil and to the director of Institute Camões. Of course, a language, Portuguese language, as
Sorry, just...
Hello? The
Yes.
sound is good now. So, of course, Portuguese, as any language, is a global asset. So, we can talk in terms of emotional, culture, political, and so on. But coming to the economic, today, a country like Brazil and Portugal. Brazil is member of G20 and Portugal is member of EU and NATO. Which is the economic value for the Portuguese language? Maybe you have some studies, you can help me, because being following this EU bubble, we talk too much about figures and graphics. So for me, it should be a help for me. Sorry for being so down to the earth, so house, so terra, but it's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for an important question, Eduardo. You're right. We have, this is one of the criticisms that normally the CPLP received, that, okay, it's important, but how to do it? So I think this linkage between culture and the language have, in a certain way, to arrive in projects. I tried to mention some of them, but there are many other questions. But let's see what other languages and culture are doing. In English, for example, it's an asset that is very important to decide. To give you a precise examples that this will arrive at a cost that of X millions euros, we cannot do it by this way. But normally, I think in my work, and I try to do it, and I think this is one of the ways of doing. I received orientation from my chancellery. I received some budget for do it, but I try to work, and I take the way one of our greatest cineasts, Glauber Rocha, said. I work with an idea in the head and a camera in the hand, and I go. I try to find where can we put our little resources at the best cost with the best influence in society. So I think this asset of the language is very important, not only for our community, but in all other communities, you can say. You see the importance of culture in the English language for in the United States or in Europe, la francophonie, and so on. If it would not be an important asset, this culture would not use it. But the way to do it, I'm not an expert. I'm a diplomat, and I'm from the economic area. So, and but in culture, I try to develop some projects with this idea of Glauber Rocha. Uma ideia na cabeça e uma câmera na mão, and let's go.
But I think that there are actual figures of the value.
Yes, some numbers.
If that was your question.
I will be brief. Portuguese-speaking countries account for 3.6% of the world's total wealth, 5.58% of the global sea shelf, 16.3% of the global availability of freshwater reserves, which is 10.8 million square kilometers. So this is the importance of the Portuguese-speaking countries in the world nowadays, economically speaking. Of course, Cape Verde is included.
Yes, I think the figure is if CPLP was a country, it would be the fifth or the sixth more wealthy.
Countries,
would be the fifth or sixth more wealthiest country in the world. So I'm going to need to close the panel. Thank you so much for your insights. thank you for reminding us through the example you gave with the G20 that Portuguese is a language that links continents, that is present in every continent, and so does allow a dialogue that is of a world scale, let's say. Thank you so much for sharing with us an insight on Camões' work in Belgium in particular, but also in the world. And I don't know if I should say thank you or say how scared it made me feel, the insight of the future. No, because then my mother will make me follow through with what I promised. So thank you so much for sharing with us your profound knowledge on these matters. It was a pleasure to be among you.
Can I finish with the Portuguese author quote, please?
I wanted to say
okay.
a quote of Mandela in Portuguese. Is that what you're going to
No, I have a Virgílio Ferreira quote, so please.
Go on.
No, just because we are celebrating World Speaking Day. So I have a quote for a Portuguese author, Virgílio Ferreira. Da minha língua vê-se o mar. From my language, we'll see the sea.
And I'm not going to do anything that I was thinking about doing because it's time for the closing remarks. And so I'll call His Excellency Jorge Cabral, Ambassador of Portugal to Belgium. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My glasses. Well, I hope you can hear me. I think you can. I hope you can. So I will start to address to Minister Gatz in absentia because he was otherwise engaged. But he was very interesting and challenging. The expose he made. The ambassadors, Ambassador of Brazil, Ambassador of Mozambique, Ambassador of Spain that already left, but we appreciate very much that he could join us. Dear speakers, Professor Branco, representative of Instituto Camões, dear Portuguese language enthusiasts and students, ladies and gentlemen, bom dia. I was given the difficult task of wrapping up this seminar. It is always very difficult to do such a work because there are points that we can miss, but I took the risk. It was no doubt a fruitful morning, covering the main issues that arise when you talk about multilingualism. And it's interesting to mention that apart from multilingualism, we have already the Portuguese language with all its varieties, and this is already another issue that could cover up another seminar or discussion. But it was mentioned several times in different occasions. This seminar, like other initiatives of the same nature, is not intended to be conclusive, but only to help raise collective awareness, share information, and of course, launch the discussion. And to launch the discussion is the most important aim. That's what my conclusions will be. As you probably are aware, I'm far from being an expert on this subject. The experts are the distinguished and very knowledgeable panelists who have spoken before me and whom I would like to congratulate for such rich and interesting presentations. Having said that, and not attempting in any way to be exhaustive, I'll share with you what I think are the main conclusions of this discussion. The first panel focused on the issues of multilingualism and its importance for the future. First of all, it seems that today we know for a fact that multilingualism does not cause any delays or disorders in linguistic, social, emotional, or other domain of children's development. And this is already a very encouraging conclusion. On the contrary, multilingualism has many beneficial effects, like at individual level, multilingualism supports children's multiple culture identity, maintaining the native language strengthens family cohesion, and impacts on children's cognitive development on more flexible ways of thinking and less social inhibitions. Having competence in one language has a positive influence on the acquisition of a new language. It is therefore fair to say that mother tongue is a real strength for the child and should always be supported with language instruction, as well as integrating and valuing the linguistic and cultural diversity, making minority languages visible by valuing them and promoting positive attitudes towards multilingualism and linguistic diversity will help to create a more mixed and tolerant society. At EU level, many policies are in place to incentivize proficiency in multiple languages, like the Erasmus Plus program that was mentioned several times and on different occasions this morning, valuing linguistic diversity and paving the way for young Europeans to embark on a voyage of culture exploration and expanded horizons. The challenge of artificial intelligence was raised on both panels. The first one underscored that it is imperative to acknowledge the inherent risk posed by the rapid advances of artificial intelligence, wherein languages with fewer speakers face the danger of marginalization within digital realms due to their underrepresentation. I have to say that was a certain moment and I felt a little bit pessimistic because I have the sense that when Professor Branco mentioned it, this feeling of having Big Brother is watching you. In a way it's true, but we have alternatives and hope, as you said, rightly said. Whereas the second panel, which addressed specifically the Portuguese language, underlined that in the digital era, the use of language in different contexts happens with technological intermediation, which processes the acts of communication and accesses their meaning. The challenge of this incessant technological mediation of human communication conducted by a global monopoly, as it is happening nowadays, was pointed as a risk for individual and collective sovereignty. But these questions linked to the digitalization and artificial intelligence deserved a whole new other seminar for sure. Turning now to the Portuguese language itself. After all, we are here today to mark the World Portuguese Language Day as we look to the future. The Portuguese language needs to make its mark online by growing the culture and scientific resources available in Portuguese. This is an important challenge. The recent signing of a memorandum between Instituto Camões from Portugal and Guimarães Rosa Institute from Brazil, as it was mentioned before, is a great example of mutual commitment to enhance the presence and influence of Portuguese language on the global stage. As mentioned by our panelists, Instituto Camões already ensures the presence of the Portuguese language all over the world. Numbers that will certainly increase with the commitment between the two institutes and enhance the presence and influence of Portuguese language on the global stage. Focusing now on Belgium. Portuguese language is taught in 23 schools, mostly in the French-speaking community and in 3 universities. We aim at increasing these numbers so that more children from the Lusophone community learns their family language, Portuguese, and I must say that the remarks of His Excellency the Minister for the promotion on multilingualism in this regard about the policies that are being implemented in the region were very welcome. As we look further into the future, we must seek to strengthen the use of Portuguese as an official and working language in international organizations and forums, as well as to aim for Portuguese to be recognized as an official language of the United Nations by 2030, in line with the most recent declarations from our Prime Minister. Before closing the session, allow me to thank, once again, the fantastic collaboration and support of the United Nations Regional Center of Western Europe for this event, and all the distinguished speakers and excellent moderators for their availability and valuable insights. I would like also to thank all the collaboration from our team and the different teams that were engaged in this organization. Thank you so much. Without the backstage and it's not possible to organize such an event. Finally, I leave you with a thought from Charlemagne. To have another language is to possess a second soul. Muito obrigado a todos pela vossa participação e pela vossa presença. Thank you so much.
To finish, before leaving the room, please, I would like to call on stage all the intervenants and panelists for a small gift of the National Authority for Tourism from Portugal. And thank you everyone for your presence, and hope to see you in our next celebration of the World Portuguese Language. Hopefully on the 27th, as the Ambassador of Brazil proposed at Baixu for the music concert. Thank you. English.